Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we're diving into a story where centuries of royal tradition smashed right into a deeply personal modern crisis. We're going to break down King Charles's cancer journey and look at how it completely rewrote the monarchy's playbook. Seriously, just think about that for a second. How do you do that for forever? A monarch's health was treated like a state secret. Getting sick was seen as a sign of weakness. But King Charles was faced with this exact problem. And well, the path he chose changed everything for the royal family. And honestly, the best place to start is with the king's own words. This quote right here gets to the very heart of the story. This isn't just some stuffy official headline. It's a deeply personal admission that shows a side of the monarchy we almost never get to see. Vulnerable. And, you know what? Surprisingly relatable. Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down for you today. First, we'll look at the shocking diagnosis itself. Then we'll get into how he rewrote the royal rules on privacy. After that, we'll follow his very public journey through treatment. And finally, we'll see how this all led to a brand new mission for him. So, stick around. And hey, if you like what you're hearing, do us a huge favor and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. All right, first up, a shocking diagnosis. So where does a story this big even start? Well, you might be surprised. It wasn't with some huge dramatic press conference. Nope. It all started quietly with something the palace just called a routine procedure. And things moved fast. I mean, really, really fast. On January 17th, it's just a routine thing. By February 5th, it's a cancer diagnosis. And just one day after that, he's already back out waving to the public. That incredible speed was a huge clue that things were going to be handled very, very differently this time. Now, the palace was super careful with their words here. They made it crystal clear the cancer was found during his procedure, but it was a separate issue of concern. And they really hammered home that it was not prostate cancer. That was no accident. It was a strategic move to get ahead of the story and shut down any rumors before they could even start. And that decision to be so upfront, well, that takes us right into our next part. This was so much more than just a health update. It was a total game changer for the royals, turning a private struggle into a kind of public service. You gotta understand, the old way was all about total secrecy. If a king or queen got sick, nobody was supposed to know. It was seen as a weakness, something that could cause instability. But King Charles? He basically just tossed that old rulebook out the window. He went for what we're calling strategic openness. Not sharing every single detail, but being honest about the diagnosis itself. A huge break from tradition. And the palace was pretty clear about why they did this. Their official statement basically laid out two big reasons. First, to stop people from guessing and making up wild stories. And second, and this is the really important part, he hoped it might help people understand what it's like for everyone all around the world who's affected by cancer. Okay, so you might be thinking, if he's being so open, why not just say what type of cancer it is? And that's a great question. Well, it turns out that was also a conscious choice. The thinking was that by not naming a specific cancer, he could be a voice for the entire cancer community, not just one group. It was a pretty smart way to make his support as broad and inclusive as possible. So, once the news was out, the next challenge was massive. How do you go through treatment when you're one of the most photographed people on Earth? The plan wasn't to disappear. It was to find a whole new way to navigate his role, right out in the open. And the message from day one was clear. The king is still working. Yeah, he had to postpone public events, but he was still handling his official duties. You know, those famous red boxes full of state papers. This was a crucial way to signal stability and show everyone that the government was still running just fine. And then we got this moment. Wow. In a meeting with the Prime Minister, he admitted that all the messages and cards from the public had reduced me to tears. I mean, that's just so real, so human. It was this powerful reminder that underneath the crown, he's a person going through something incredibly difficult, just like anyone else. And his journey was intentionally visible. He got back to his duties in April 2024, and he even met with other cancer patients to share experiences. He was seen waving from his car, just small things to reassure people. Now, it wasn't a perfectly smooth ride. There was a brief hospital stay for side effects, which showed the reality of treatment. But even that became part of this open public story. And of course, he wasn't going it alone. The monarchy is a family business, after all. Prince William really stepped up his game, taking on a lot more public events to support his dad. It was a clear sign of the family working as a team to provide that stability and keep things moving. And all of this brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful chapter in this whole story. The king didn't just get through his diagnosis, he transformed it. He turned a personal crisis into a public mission. Then, after nearly 2 years, came this moment in December 2025. The king himself, in a message, sharing the good news everyone had been waiting for. This wasn't just a personal update, it was a message of hope for everyone who had been following his journey. The palace gave a little more context, explaining that his doctor said he'd responded exceptionally well. The treatment wasn't completely over, but it was moving into a less intense, precautionary phase. Again, it was that same careful, positive language that defined his whole approach. With his own health improving, the king fully shifted into his role as an advocate, and he pointed to this staggering number, 9 million. That's how many people in the UK were overdue for their cancer screenings. He said that figure troubles me deeply, and you could just tell his focus was now on this huge public health issue. And to show exactly why this matters so much, he used bowel cancer as a powerful example. Just look at these numbers. With an early diagnosis, the 5-year survival rate is 90%. But if it's caught late, it plummets to just 10%. The argument for getting screened early? Well, it couldn't be any clearer. So this became his core message, the whole point of his journey. He used his own experience, where a chance discovery made all the difference, to amplify one simple, powerful truth. Early diagnosis saves lives. Period. So what's the big takeaway here? King Charles faced a crisis that royal tradition said he should hide. Instead, he did the opposite. He challenged that tradition. He humanized the monarchy by showing he was vulnerable. And he turned a personal struggle into a public mission to do some real good in the world. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. In a world where we often expect our leaders to be invincible, King Charles chose to show his human side. So the question is, does showing that vulnerability actually make a leader stronger, more relatable? What do you guys think? I'd love to know your thoughts, so drop them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this explainer. And hey, if you found it useful, hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel really helps us out. We'll see you in the next one.